Wake up. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Cybertruck for a Cyber Talk, and I'm very excited for this one. We've got Clint Pardoe here. This is called Wake Up Call. How are you feeling, Clint?
I'm feeling good, man. Feeling energized.
Yeah. What do you think of the event so far?
Just so good to be here and connect with so many good people.
You know, sometimes it's not about like quantity. So a lot of people judge an event's success by the number of people that are there, or how good a party is by how busy and how many people there are. But I knew that about this event that, you know, the people that show up are going to be the right people that show up, and it's going to be an excellent talk. First off, this is the Maha Cybertruck Talks. Ticker sign Maha on ETH. That is the movement token supporting the Maha movement, helping fuel charge this Cybertruck, fuel the bus, empowering community generation, IRL activations, and more, and supporting the grassroots activators and storm runners and Maha maniacs out there. So if you don't have any Maha, check out Maha on ETH to learn more. Clint, you have any crypto?
I don't.
You don't?
No.
No?
No. But I'm open to learning more. Honestly, ironically, I am not aware enough about it at this point.
Okay.
So I need to be woken up.
Yeah, I had my wake up call to it. I guess like I watched this movie called Zeitgeist by Peter Joseph back in 2007, and that woke me up to the men behind the curtain, if you will, and how the central banks work, and you know, this fiat money. And then Ron Paul kind of came along, and he talked about ending the Fed and monetary sovereignty and sound money. And then, you know, Bitcoin came along. I instantly dismissed it. I saw it very, very early. And then I was working in my family restaurant. Someone walked in and started talking all about Bitcoin and claiming he had a ton of it. And I just started asking questions. And that was the moment where, you know, then I had a business selling iPhone cases at the time, custom engraved wooden iPhone cases. It was kind of fun. And I got an order from a company called btcquick.com, and they paid half a Bitcoin for custom iPhone case. So that was my very first kind of Bitcoin in this space. It was actually like, you know, transacting for goods and services, which is pretty cool. And I mean, we won't talk about Bitcoin too much here, but it's a very, you know, I would love to show you the ropes and set you up with a wallet and show you how it all works, because it's a parallel system, or it's an alternative model that makes the traditional financial system obsolete in the long run.
I love it.
Yeah. So
and I wish I would have gotten a wooden iPhone case, because mine's just normal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using like this safe sleeve kind of case. They say it's like an EMF protecting, but it's also it's also kind of like a wallet, so it's a pretty good time.
Yeah. Nice.
Wake up call. What does that mean?
It's time to wake up.
Wake up from what?
From the current reality that people are experiencing.
The Matrix reality?
Yeah, that's one way of saying it. Yeah.
That's and I feel, and like, you know, something I've been saying over the last couple of days too is the you know, it really feels like this election, there's like this binary decision, but it feels like between the two options, it's we the people versus the Matrix. And the more people, the thing about waking up from the Matrix is you can't go back. You can wish you took the blue pill, but you can't take the blue pill anymore. So, you know, I think a lot of people, and that red pill, blue pill Matrix thing, it might be a little bit intense for a lot of people, and it doesn't need to be. That's why I kind of thought Bobby Kennedy was like kind of like the remedy is Kennedy. And it was kind of like the white pill. It's like kind of bringing a gentle approach towards, you know, thinking, asking questions, and, you know, seeing hope too, because like the Matrix alternative to the Matrix is like an underground dystopian world, which is not all that appealing. But anyways, that's just the movies, but it's a good kind of parallel illusion for where we are in the world. So you know, what do you tell me, like, you know, because we were connected by Patrick Clerk, and you were we were talking about activating students around the country, and like bringing the Wake Up tour.
Students for Kennedy.
Students for Kennedy.
Yeah. So I taught at college for about 13 years. I've spoken nationally in the college market, and from what I've gleaned throughout this campaign, especially over the last, I'd say, year and a half, in the college market, because my experience is that most campuses are very liberal in their dissemination of information, that the students are, using your terminology, stuck in this matrix of information without any awareness around alternative options. And so, you know, the tour that we were starting to create was going to take some, I like the analogy of the white pill, because some of the principles that I talk about in my talk to college students are a gentle entering into having an awareness outside of what someone's currently aware of in various aspects of their life, whether it's their own self, whether it's in their relationships, whether it's in their time management, whether it's in their spirituality. And so the idea is and was to help to create that awareness, and then also integrate that as a catalyst into what's going on in our political world. Because, and I think this is still true even after Bobby has made his shift into transitioning into the Trump campaign, is that there's a lot of students who are still trapped in the perspective of identity politics, as opposed to politics. And I still think that there's hope for students, for the country, with people who still identify very much so with that perspective, by people like yourself, people in this particular movement who, for lack of a better word, are helping people to become more aware of alternatives, to help them wake up that there is a different option moving forward than what they've been conditioned in.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the biggest things about this convention as it exists is its ability to, and this is what attracted me to, one of the things that attracted me to Bobby Kennedy is, and he said something like this, don't quote me exactly, but he said something like, you know, he didn't care what people chose, he just wanted people to have an option. And I remember him saying that about the debate when he first got shut out of the first debate, like, just let me on the debate stage, let me have a voice so that people can have an option. And I think that that's really the awareness that I want to help bring to students during this time frame and moving forward, is that, like, hey, there is another option, and based upon this other option, through your own critical thinking, what do you want to choose? And then whatever you choose is fine, but choice without, you can't have conscious choice without awareness of all your options. You know, so it's like, let's give you all the options on the table, and then you can consciously choose what you want to do. And so I feel like the INC is providing an avenue for people to have an alternative option around the conscious choices that they have for their lives and for this country.
I couldn't agree more. And, you know, with even with this, you know, Bobby kind of aligning with Trump, and the emergence of this MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, initiative. I think it creates a nice big tent, but he's not asking people to identify as Republicans. He's still asking people to stay in their independence and recognize that this is the we the people versus the Matrix option here. And I was talking to another amazing participant here, and he was kind of explaining there's the kind of the mega Trumpers, if you will, but then there's also this evolving group of sane, he called them sane Trump supporters, where it's I've seen pictures of Bernie supporters holding support Kennedy, vote Trump signs, and it's there's a lot of people are coming from all over, and I think the fear that a lot of people have is, will Trump keep his word? And we don't have, there's no way to know that, but I do feel that Trump is very concerned about, or very conscious of, his own reputation, and is trying to leave a legacy. And I think he feels like he got swindled a little bit in the first go around, and had some poor actors around him. He's used the word neocon to describe some of these war enjoying efforts, and now all these neocons seem to be transitioning away. Now, but back to the students for a second, because we were all students at one point, and I just remember the school was pushing some crap. It's students are this bullshit. So I feel like they can push this woke agenda, if you will, but I feel like more and more trusting in the individuality and the independence of young people. I have hope.
Yeah,
I have a lot of hope.
Yeah,
and there's great people, and I mean, we've got some amazing students. These guys who we've been connecting with in the campaign are incredible, and they just want to create. Yeah. So. I'm very hopeful. I personally think the whole university system is a part. It's a pyramid, and at the top are the funders of it, which is generally the corporations for a lot of the research grants, and those are the major stakeholders. And then kind of at the bottom of the pyramid are the janitors and kind of the students. And it doesn't necessarily respect or honor them. And I had one teacher in university who really broke this down clearly. He came in. For some reason, I got one teacher for one semester. He was there for one semester, and then he dipped. And it was the most incredible class ever. He taught critical thinking. He really engaged the students. And some students were oh, this guy's crazy. It's what is this contract grading? It's you submit the paper, you decide what grade you get on it. And if you wrote a shitty paper and gave yourself an A, he would be okay, come into my office and explain to me, why do you think you deserve an A on this paper? And he's well, and if you don't show up to the office for that, you get an F. And it's you're done. No. There's you're a liar.
Yeah.
You're being deceitful and trying to be deceptive here. Yeah. So he's teaching these crazy values, and that was really good. And he just absolutely hated the faculty around them, because they would talk about their investments, their 401ks, and I don't know, this and that. And he just wanted to be with the students, so he had open doors. And I remember going into his office one time, and one of his students just got off the phone with him, who had lost his wife and daughter during birth, and that student called Yasin Sankar, Professor Sankar, for connection and guidance. So, yeah. It was a real bodhisattva just came through.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, because I think it's easy to, especially with the terminology and the languaging that a lot of people use with politics identities, and the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the Independent Party. I mean, at the end of the day, all those are just labels. And even with you're talking about the universities. Having worked at one or a couple for a number of years, I don't know the ins and outs of how everything works. But what I do know is that there's still really good-hearted people in that profession. And I don't know that every single university is like disseminating only like certain information so that nothing else can be seen. I'm hoping that there's still critical thinking going on, which is why, part of the reason why I still continue to and want to even speak more across the U.S. on college campuses to universities that really do want to provide open critical thinking is to do just that, based upon my experience as a college student. Because as a college student, I learned most. I became more awake and aware of things that were like life applicable to my everyday life after college that I did inside college. It's what sparked me to write a book for college students and start speaking. And so my agenda, moving forward isn't to necessarily shun universities, um, because again, indicative of what Bobby talks about, I don't want to get into the vitriol, of blaming and whatever, because who knows who really knows the ins and outs of what's going on. What I do know is that I have the ability to disseminate my own information, and whatever universities want to be open to that for their students, fantastic. And social media, as you very well know, as we're doing here, has been a huge influence in this campaign like no other. And I think a lot of the perspectives and rhetoric that a lot of college students have gotten about the campaign has come through social media. And unfortunately, what I've seen with the Democratic Party is that I haven't seen any real substance. It's been a lot about identity politics, rather than, again, politics. And one of the things that I've loved about Bobby's campaigning up until this point, and he's still doing it, has been the long form podcasting and the ability, I know that the college students are in a generation where, and both of my kids are in that age group where it's like they want information quickly, right? Like they want to hear little bits, etc. They don't necessarily want to sit down and listen to an hour and a half podcast. But the fact of the matter is if we really take a look at, kind of going back to Socrates, if we look at like the university and what it was created for, it was to have dialogues, open dialogues about contemplative, deep life questions. And if you aren't willing to have those dialogues, then you're just going to be part of this matrix that's feeding you bits of information that isn't going to allow for you to really make conscious choices. So I also think it's the responsibility of the students as a self-responsibility to take time. I think if I was running the universities at this point, I think in our country during the elections, it's like, what else could be more important in this dialogue right now than who we're going to elect to run our country for the next 4 years? Yeah. I think the first semester or quarter of every election right now in every university, the pause button should be hit, and we and this is whoever, I don't know where this is going to go, but and probably people have said this, but I think it's also an atrocity to our democracy, even the way the debates are run. Not the fact that Bobby didn't get on the debate stage and there was interference about that, but let's say he even did. The formatting, and I taught communication courses for 13 years. I taught a speech and debate class occasionally. It wasn't my forte, but I did teach one. You can't effectively make a decision when you're giving people 1 and 2 minutes. It's just like social media. You're given sound bites without any real backing or any opportunity to have a lengthy dialogue about anything moving forward. Look, I think in an ideal scenario, or perhaps moving forward, the vision is like, okay, universities, let's hit the pause button. Let's have a dialogue about this. And if we can't do that, let's at least, for our electoral process, let's at least take that time frame and take the top 10 political things that affect every human being in our country, from abortion to war to free speech and all of those things, and let's every week for 8 to 10 weeks have the top candidates on a podcast where we're spending 3 hours dissecting that one thing. So and you can bring in your research and all the things, so that we have this lengthy
Clint
dialogue
I like
about each
of
of those things moving forward, so that by the time election comes, people know through critical assessment, and they get to know the personalities of people. Because, you know, again, I've been a speaker for almost 20 years now, and I teach people how to speak and get paid to speak and all that. You can create a 3 to 5 minute demo video that looks fantastic. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're a great speaker, or that you're going to be a consistent, amazing advocate after your speech. Like, who are you after the speech? And I think the same thing is true for how we run elections these days. Anybody can make a 3 to 5 minute kick-ass promo video. Anybody can do clips. Anybody can do all these things. And then the question becomes, who are you after those clips? Who are you once you get in the White House? Who are you as a person? I think we really can vet that process prior to an election with just an 8 to 10 week cycle of doing something like we're sitting here doing in the Maha Cybertruck, where there's a lengthier conversation about a topic where students, I don't want to say need and put that, but like have the opportunity, and people of our country have the opportunity to really take the time, make the time to make a conscious choice for leadership in our country moving forward.
I completely agree, Clint, and I think that is something we've just projected and asked for and sent out, and we can clip this and get that little monologue, which was an amazing speech. Because yeah, I mean, it only happens once every 4 years. I think the students would enjoy this process too. It will challenge the brain, it will engage in civics, it will cover a whole myriad of topics. Just being involved in the Bobby campaign has taught me so much, because Bobby knows so much and he engages in so many discussions, and like the long form interviews. And I mean, some people are like hopeless, and I feel like the current system kind of like, you know, tries to almost like create that hopelessness within society. But I am so hopeful. Like, we live in a beautiful world. We have access to more information than we've ever had before, more resources than we've ever had before. Like the exponential technologies and tools that we have at our disposal. Like we're like, things are spinning really fast here. And personally, I feel like we're shifting from this, you know, this age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. And one of the things that's, you know, thought when it comes to age shifts, and this is like a 2,000 kind of year cycle that we're on, as part of a much larger 26,000 year cycle, is that, you know, the systems of one age don't really port well into the next age. And I feel like we're going through that now. And a lot of, like, you know, this matrix reality systems are so toxic and broken and centralized and inefficient that it's time to convene people and have an open, honest discussion about what do we want and what are the ideal outcomes. What are some massive, like, things that we can all agree on? So it's like, you know, we can differ on different things, but there are some, like, you know, values that everybody will agree on. We want to drink clean water, we want to eat healthy food,
no nuclear war.
I want no nuclear war. Like, there's and those are like, okay, we can all get agree. We all agree. Okay, great. Well, we have common ground.
Well, and you know, I threw the nuclear war out there kind of as a joke, but kind of not. I mean, when we talk about the term wake up call, it's like I am hopeful as well. I'm more hopeful, and I think we've got so many amazing people indicative of who you said is here at this convention, and who I've come across in this process as well. I just flew from California, where I live, to speak in Virginia, all the way across the United States. And I didn't experience one person hating on each other the whole trip across the whole. Yeah, I just traveled the whole U.S. Right. So I'm not trying to be Pollyanna here about like, oh, everything's great. I know that there's division and stuff. Be careful about like how much division there actually is based on what we're seeing on social media. And the reason I brought up the nuclear war thing is because as hopeful as I am about the future of this country for all of us and the world, is that we are at a critical point here with regards to what's happening in the current administration. And what is absolutely critical is, again, and I think I'm speaking to students here that are in support of the Harris Waltz ticket for whatever reasons, is look at the policies. You have to look at the policies, because the policies that are driving that potentiality are the policies that have the potentiality of engaging in a nuclear war. And that's very, very real.
They're trying to provoke, and it's and some people say things, but it's like, what does your action actually do?
Totally.
And there's a disconnect. Well, Clint, I want to say thank you, brother. I got to jump into this dinner.
Yeah.
And this has been an absolute pleasure. And this is going to be posted on X. You got to set up an account there. Otherwise, I would have tagged you.
I'm late to the social media.
I know, but X is a container of of more or less free speech.
Yeah.
And there's amazing discussions happening there. And I think you have a voice that has been heard by so many students. Like if you can take that voice into the social media and like the X realm, for example, this is we get better through more information and hearing different opinions, and also, we didn't just bitch about what was going on. It's like, here, universities, here's a very clear recommendation for how you should treat election cycles towards creating an engaged, excited, informed student population. And that should be something that honestly should come from the students, because it's like, not the the stakeholders or the shareholders and the funders of it.
The students, you have more power than you think. I'm telling you, it sounds cliche, but you absolutely do. What I've learned, and you reiterated it today on stage, and I've learned for myself in this campaign and being involved, is you cannot wait for other people to make it happen. You've got to make it happen. And I know I sound like a motivational speaker, and I am on some level, but I swear that is such a deep truth. It's like, you cannot wait, and you have more power than you think. And it only takes one person, and then it resonates and ripples out, and other people. There's somebody else out there right now thinking, oh, what's my vote make a difference? It's like, your vote does make a difference, because if you don't vote and everybody thought that way, then nothing would make the difference that you want to have happen. So again, whatever you choose.
Like when people say, like, call your congressman, it's like, that call to the congressman, that can actually really work.
Yes, totally.
And people think, oh, they're saying call the congressman. That congressman's line is going to get flooded with calls. And guess what? No, it doesn't.
Totally. So to your point, the students have the power at the university, just like the people have the power with the government. If enough people, if enough students from the ground up make things happen. So what do you want? Make it happen, and let's all create a amazing, more extraordinary world than we've ever lived in before moving forward.
That's it, Clint. Well, folks, this has been your wake-up call with Clint Pardoe, soon to be on X. Please share, enjoy, think about it, and never, ever doubt your divinity. Let's go. Maha, baby. Make America healthy again. Take your simple Maha. Farewell, friends. Yes. And we are out. Out.